Oliver, this debacle over the tendering for the West Coast mainline rail service in the UK, which the British government was putting out, is really just incredibly embarrassing and very unfortunate, and particularly perhaps for shareholders in First Group, whose shares have gone down 20%. But does it carry any broader lessons about outsourcing, perhaps particularly in a recessionary climate?
I think it does. I mean, clearly there's some very specific issues here about the way this West Coast line, one of the main rail lines in the UK, about how that was tendered out, what happened in the process and why it was cancelled, and there'll be a long post-mortem on what happened. There'll probably be a lot of legal action, a lot of lawyers will get very wealthy. But broader than that, it does raise the question about the risks that companies such as rail operators like First Group, or more general outsourcing companies such as Capita, the risks that these companies run when dealing with the government, particularly, as you say, at a time of austerity, when the government is looking to get as much money as it can from providers of these services, but is also cutting back its own departments. It's possible that government cutbacks were one of the reasons why the Department of Transport made a mess of this particular tendering process.
I mean, I would have thought that a government contract was quite a nice piece of work to have in a recession. I mean, the government's, broadly speaking, not likely to go bust and will pay up. But presumably you have to weigh against that the problems of getting the terms right. I mean, are companies too aggressive in the way that they try and get government or public sector business?
Well, they're having to be more aggressive. The government needs revenue from these kind of services to pay the deficit. So the government's being a lot more demanding now about the kind of terms that it wants, and it's had a lot of people in from the private sector to really up the tempo of its tendering process. But it's also becoming more demanding about what it wants outsourcing companies to do. If you take another example, Serco, which is a big outsourcing company, it runs Doncaster Prison. Part of its revenues from that prison contract depend on whether it can improve reoffending rates from people who leave the prison. Now, this goes far beyond what companies usually do. The debate into how and why people reoffend is long and wide-ranging, and it's quite a complex one. So it's a whole new area of business, if you like, for the company, and allied to that, a whole new area of risk for the shareholder.
Absolutely. So if I'm a shareholder and I see a company which is getting a lot of government business, should I think that's a plus or a minus? I mean, should I give it a discount or a premium?
Well, overall, in times of recession, it is reliable business, but although it's reliable business, governments are not reliable customers. They're liable to change what they want on any sort of political whim. So there's a certain discount that should be applied for that, and indeed shares in both transport companies and broader outsourcing companies have been falling over the last few years to reflect that. Certainly the ratings have. So investors are increasingly applying a discount for this, which I think is justified.
Well, that sounds a tricky one for investors. They're going to have to balance it, and as we all know, balancing acts are difficult to perform.